Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Today I rise to speak in support of the Land Transport Infrastructure Amendment Bill 2014. I want to commend the government on this bill, which, among other things, enables the continuation of the Road to Recovery program, which provides vital funding to local governments for the maintenance of the nation's local road infrastructure beyond 30 June 2014. And I'd like to support and add my support to the comments from the member for Leichhardt. Whilst not the topic of my speech today, I'd also want to commend the government for committing $300 million to finalise plans, engineering designs and environmental assessments for the Melbourne to Brisbane Inland Rail Freight project, but more about that at another time. The Roads to Recovery program is an example of good policy. It's being implemented as it's intended to be and makes a real difference to roads throughout our community. I look forward to seeing funding for this program in the next budget. There are 8 councils in Indi, and the following section of my speech will outline how each of them has used and plans to use the Road to Recovery funding. Every one of them has reported to me with a long list of success stories in my local council areas. Beginning with Alpine Shire, the council has received $2,806,434 from the Road to Recovery program since 2009. Alpine Shire takes in the major beautiful towns of Bright, Mount Beauty, Myrtleford, and has 630 kilometres of road, of which 395 are sealed. Alpine Shire is planning for 2014 and 15 and has an extensive list of priorities for future Road to Recovery funding, including conducting renewal works for ageing roads and bridge infrastructure, resealing and resheeting roads, replacing bridges, rehabilitating existing sealed roads, replacing curbs and sealing unsafe gravelly roads. These works will be done in conjunction with $1.5 billion of funding from the Victorian State Government. This list of projects is only a start, and needless to say, the Alpine Shire is waiting in anticipation for future funding. Alpine Shire has the requisite funds to match anticipated Roads to Recovery funding, and I believe this shows how important this program is for the Shire and how committed they are to begin the program. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that Alpine Shire surrounds some of Victoria's most major ski resorts. For your information, Mount Hotham, Falls Creek and the snowfields at Dinner Plain and Mount Buffalo. Roads to Recovery funding in this area not only benefits us locals, but also the thousands of tourists travelling to the snowfields each year. Safe roads, as we've heard today, are essential for all industries in tourism, particularly all industries in Indi, particularly tourism. I now turn my comments to Murrindindi Shire. On the outskirts of Melbourne, Murrindindi Shire boasts impressive national parks, state forests, and is home to a number of smaller towns including Kinglake, Yark, Yea, Talangi, to name a few. Like many rural councils, the Murrindindi Shire Council faces significant financial challenges when planning to address the demands of its existing and growing asset base. Infrastructure funding from grants such as Road to Recovery allows Murrindindi Shire to undertake works that it would be totally and utterly unable to fund alone. A Murrindindi staff member told my office, the R2R funding is critical to undertaking maintenance and renewal for all our road networks. Murrindindi Council has responsible for very extensive road networks, and for the information of this House, 489 kilometres of sealed road, 749 kilometres of unsealed road and a massive 244 bridges. The scale of Murrindindi Council asset renewal obligations are significant, and ongoing support is critical. Priority for Roads to Recovery funding for Council in 2014 and 15 have focused on the unsealed network, that's 749 kilometres. But over the past 4 years, Road to Recovery funding has enabled Council to undertake road rehabilitation on approximately 120 kilometres of the unsealed road network, and clearly without this funding Council would not have been able to undertake this very important work. Murrindindi Council provides an important example of how councils with relatively smaller populations in Yea, Alexander, Kinglake and Marysville spread over a very large area, struggle to finance the maintenance of infrastructure in their communities. Road to Recovery enables local councils to keep up with infrastructure maintenance demands. Moving to the north of my electorate, Towong Shire Council has similar challenges to Murrindindi in that it has a smaller population base and a very large network of roads. Covering 6,500 square kilometres, Towong has many towns and villages which are connected by a network of 392 kilometres of sealed road and 556 kilometres of unsealed road. For 2014 and 15, Towong intends to seal 1.4 kilometres of unsealed road at a cost of $250,000 and to reseal 23.5 kilometres at a cost of $840,000. Still a long way to go. My own local government area, Indigo Shire, takes in the beautiful towns of Rutherglen, Chiltern, Yakandanda and Beechworth, and Council has 1,400 kilometres of road, of which 430 are sealed roads. And major priorities for Indigo Shire in the coming future are the Up River Road, the Gurumbatta Road, the Gundowring Road. And these projects will include resealing, repairing pavement base, improving the shoulders of the roads and working on some intersections for these roads. Indigo Shire expects to spend a total of $2 million next year completing these projects. $1 million will be state funded and the remaining $1 million will be a mix of council funding and Road to Recovery. In Mansfield Shire, the Road to Recovery funding is used to top up the renewal gap in road maintenance. And without this funding, a source in Mansfield said, we will be going backwards. In fact, it would be great if the amount of funding we receive could be doubled. 1/6 of the Council's capital works budget comes from Road to Recovery. And as a council with a very small rate base, they are highly reliant on R2R funding. Priorities in the immediate future is to fix the heavy haulage route, which is a town bypass for trucks, and it carries timber, gravel, stock, as well as tourists. And speaking as an aside, the issue of road safety for heavy haulage is particularly important, as Indi is home to several essential road links between Victoria and New South Wales, including a long stretch of the Hume Highway. In Australia, about 50% of the freight carried will be travelled by road at some point. And furthermore, the transportation of food mainly occurs by road in Australia. A safe and modern road network is essential for the economy. In contrast to Murrindindi, Towong, Benalla and Indigo Shires, Wodonga has a large population and a much smaller network of roads, with a total of 557 kilometres, of which 413 are sealed and 144 are unsealed. Nevertheless, their funding needs are just as pressing, and they also are keenly anticipating future Roads to Recovery funding. In 2014 and 15, they will spend $1.2 million on new roads and $1.7 million renewing existing roads. For Wodonga, their increasing population and development of new suburbs means that their road network is constantly expanding. In a city such as Wodonga, where most residents rely on their cars to get around, the need for roads to be safe and reliable is essential. With an average grant of $430,000 per annum to Wodonga, Roads to Recovery is an essential source of funding for this significant rural centre. In Benalla, the Road to Recovery priorities are based on improving the safety of their roads, especially back spots where there have been fatalities, but not enough deaths to actually qualify for black spot funding. This has already been mentioned in this House. And Roads to Recovery funding is saving lives and has enabled Benalla to respond to deadly roads in the region. Future funding will ensure that the program can continue to do so. I commend the government for amending the bill in order to increase the focus on black spots. And drawing my speech to a close, I would like to finish with a quote from a staff member at Wangaratta Council. "I don't know what council will do without this funding. We use it widely and we get excellent value from it." This staff member put it so well. This program is well targeted. It is responding to a common need across Australia. It's providing funding in a responsible way by mandating that funds be matched in order to make the most of every single dollar. And in conclusion, Mr Deputy Speaker, I'm pleased to support this bill. Roads to Recovery is a program that increases safety, helps the economy to grow and ensures that our rural and regional communities are vibrant for the future. I commend the government for establishing a legislative framework for the future of Roads to Recovery, and I look forward to seeing the improvements that future funding will bring.